It's a Tyrannosaurus Rex?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. He's done.
The one thing that's interesting about a student or someone who's deafblind is that they do have various conditions that typically cause the deafblindness, which is what causes so much variation in need and what it might look like. Oftentimes when somebody hears deafblind, they think of Helen Keller, which is the common name that comes up. And while she's a good role model, she definitely doesn't represent the whole population, because oftentimes there are other disabilities that cause the deafblindness. And so there's, additional needs such as physical limitations, some cognitive challenges, and a lot of health-related medical issues also. What's so great about it is there seems to be always something to figure out in order to bring the world to them so that they can gain more experiences. So that's a similarity in that we want them to be able to have all of the same experiences that someone who doesn't have deafblindness does, and being able to make sure that they can build relationships with other people, and have a good life like everybody else. So how we do that looks different. One of my students is sitting there and the teacher's presenting on the board, and we have what's called an intervener, one-on-one employee who works with this student to make sure that they have the materials that they need to be engaged. And they have a communication button that uses a voice for them when they push it. And we also have material that the student can feel to know what lesson is happening. So we have to make those materials, and that could be just materials that we find in our home that can help represent a more abstract concept. And so for this student, we have the button right by them all the time that they could press for the voice. And we also always have tactile material in front of them that they could touch and feel to learn about what the teacher is learning about. So if that's a topic like science, where we're learning about maybe the earth, we have a diagram or a model of that so that they're able to feel it and touch it as we describe it and talk about it. That's just something we do all day, every day for every lesson. You have to bring in extra materials. If you're talking about grocery shopping at a grocery store, you have to bring in real food. There was a student that multiple of our teachers of the deafblind had worked with previously. This was a student out in the district, and this student, I remember other teachers as well, when I started working with a student, mentioned to me, there's just so much knowledge inside of her, but she didn't have a great way of expressing that because she was nonverbal. And she was so smart, and you knew that it was there. You could look at her and she would look at you, and you knew that she was communicating, and you wanted to find out more about what she was communicating with. And there was a couple of teachers in the district who were working with her who, their expertise is not in deafblindness, and so it's a little bit harder, I think, for them to kind of imagine what the student was capable of. And I remember her just really frustrated. You could tell her body language. She was kicking, and she was trying to communicate with the small little picture symbols that she had. And we were trying to figure out what it was that she was saying. And finally, someone mentioned that she enjoys going outside. And so the teacher's like, oh, no, that's not it. Well, let's try, because the really important thing about communication is that we acknowledge that somebody's communicating, and we're trying to acknowledge that we understand them. And that drives people to want to communicate more, right? And so we ended up taking the student outside and realizing through, smiles and body language, that was exactly what the student wanted. And a couple years later, the student has been working with a really extensive communication device, because I think that point was that the educators realized she had a lot of potential and that she did intentionally try to communicate. And now she has a device that she can navigate, and it will say full sentences. She can combine multiple words, 4 to 5 words, to make a sentence to communicate what she wants, what she needs. Her world has just opened immensely, and she is just thriving, and it's really fun to watch.